If I told you that the next 5 years will reshape the nonprofit sector way more than the last 20 years, would you believe me? Because right now, nonprofits across the US are experiencing record burnout, stagnant volunteer participation, unstable funding streams, and rapid tech disruption. And after advising dozens of organizations and building my own organization from zero, I've seen what enables organizations to survive these shifts and what makes them crumble. In this episode of Changemaker Cafe, I'm going to give you a 4-part future-proofing strategy that can help nonprofits of all sizes not only survive, but thrive in this chaos. If you're just starting out, even if your organization is tiny, these strategies can still help you create a rock-solid foundation to help weather upcoming storms. So when I started my nonprofit years ago, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I looked around and I saw people leading these awesome, successful organizations and thought, if we just do good work and help the community, everything else will fall into place. But the world changed really fast, and I watched entire organizations collapse during economic downturns. I watched staff burn out so hard they left the nonprofit sector entirely. And I watched some nonprofits cling to old systems until they just basically became irrelevant. I realized nonprofits didn't have to be fragile. After all, even in all the changes in the last decade or so, there were organizations who adapted and thrived. And I learned that what those organizations did differently was all about their future-proofing systems. So when I built those systems inside my own organization, from tech to funding to staff culture, we became so much more agile, adaptable, and resilient. So let's break down the 4-part future-proofing strategy that I'm seeing nonprofits use to survive and thrive in today's rapidly changing world. If you want your nonprofit to survive the next decade, you must upgrade the engine behind your mission. That's your systems, your data, and your tech capacity. Now, regardless of your thoughts on AI, it's already reshaping fundraising, volunteer management, and impact storytelling for lots of organizations. Feeding America, for example, uses AI-powered predictive analytics to forecast demand and optimize their inventory and reduce food waste in its food distribution network. They're analyzing all of their complex data to make real-time decisions that get food where it's needed most. And in another recent study across 8 nonprofits, AI-powered donor analytics tools like Donor IQ were used to predict giving patterns and optimize who to ask and when. And every organization in the test saw an increase in their net donations compared to their usual donation amounts. Now, I don't want you to get intimidated by all of this stuff. If you want to explore AI and are just starting out, you don't need advanced tools. So you can just start with tools that show trends in your donor or volunteer data, like reporting tools and databases. You can automate repetitive tasks like built-in email or CRM automations, or use tools that help you track and report your impact, like survey tools or program trackers. But having these systems in place isn't the only thing you need to stay on top of when it comes to AI. You also need to integrate education on how to use AI ethically into your team's training. According to TechSoup, 76% of nonprofits do not have an AI strategy at all. And as a nonprofit, keeping the trust of your community is literally the most important thing. They're counting on you to use AI ethically, especially when it comes to transparent data use or bias awareness and handling information around vulnerable populations safely. So if you haven't already, enroll yourself and your team in a basic training on nonprofit AI ethics to get started. Lots of nonprofit associations that I'm seeing are offering these right now. Now, when it comes to tech, understanding how AI might be able to amplify your work is just one piece of this puzzle. You also need to know that right now, nonprofits are extremely vulnerable to cyber threats. Cyber attacks on nonprofits have surged in the last couple of years. According to the Cyber Peace Institute, nonprofit organizations are now the second most targeted sector by cyber criminals, and over half of them don't have resources dedicated to preventing cyber attacks. This is a big deal. If you store donor or client data, you must be training your teams on phishing prevention and setting up systems like multi-factor authentication and secure cloud storage. Schedule annual data audits to make sure that your nonprofit's information is accurate, it's up to date, it's securely stored, and only accessible to the right people. Here are a few simple things you can do right away to start future-proofing your nonprofit's technology. Choose one workflow that you can automate this month, like email, welcome sequences, meeting scheduling, volunteer onboarding, etc. Second, hold a 1-hour annual cybersecurity refresher with your team and document and update your data ethics policy. But technology alone won't completely future-proof your nonprofit. Not if the funding collapses, which brings us to strategy number 2. A lot of people think grants are the best or biggest source of funding for nonprofits, but we've really learned this year that they couldn't be more wrong. Grants are amazing if you can get them, but the truth is they're increasingly competitive and restrictive, making it extremely challenging for organizations, especially new or smaller ones, to obtain them. And even if you do get grants, they rarely provide funding for more than a year or two, making them a fairly unreliable, unstable source of ongoing funding for most organizations. So to future-proof their funding models, a lot of resilient organizations are leaning into or trying new strategies, such as earned income initiatives, like offering trainings, consulting, merchandise, curriculum licensing, or other services for a fee. Some nonprofits even run their own moving or dog grooming enterprises to generate consistent funding. Another one is recurring donor programs. These are consistent monthly donations from loyal donors, and they're shown to bring in a larger amount of support for the long term. Another one is corporate impact partnerships. Corporate social responsibility or employee volunteer programs, matching gifts, or sponsorships can be great opportunities for funding from corporate partners. But no matter which methods you try, there's one thing you must do to succeed in any kind of fundraising. Be discoverable by donors. It doesn't matter how amazing your mission is if your organization can't be found by the people who might fund it. Here's what potential donors are searching for. They're looking for a clear mission. If they can't understand exactly what you do and for whom in 5 seconds, you're going to lose them. They're looking for demonstrated community impact, proof that your programs work. Transparency about how your programs work and how funding is spent, and storytelling that feels human, not robotic and not corporate. That all means that your job is to optimize your website for search terms that donors use, to post consistent impact updates on social media, and short form video is a great way to do this, by the way. And you've got to have a strong positioning statement explaining the problem your organization solves for the people you serve and how your team or approach is uniquely qualified. But once your ideal funders and donors find you, there's one more thing that you've got to do to keep your funding strong in an economic downturn. Build and sustain your relationships. Your most powerful asset is not your donor list, it's donor trust. Don't wait for the end of the year to communicate your organization's impacts. Do that year round. And don't just share successes, share the challenges that come with the journey too. That also builds trust. Show what the work looks like behind the scenes with insider updates. Make sure your donors feel like partners who are on this ride with you, not just ATMs. But here's a tough truth. Fundraising is hard to succeed at if your people are burned out. So we'll talk about that next. But before we get into that next system, which is all about taking care of your people, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor that helps make videos like this possible. Click and Pledge makes it easy for nonprofits to start strong, scale, and adapt to changing circumstances with confidence. They give you professional grade tools for super affordable startup level costs from day one. They've got customizable donation forms that you can plug right into your website that creates the foundation for your messaging and online fundraising fundraising strategy. But Click and Pledge also has a number of other tools included in their affordable flat monthly costs that you can use as your nonprofit grows, like in-person and peer-to-peer fundraising features, video fundraising with embedded donation links that help you tap into donors' increasing interest in video storytelling in today's world. They've got text-to-give tools, donor stewardship and management tools to help keep your relationship strong, Salesforce and other integrations, all included with no contracts or surprise add-on fees. Now, unlike some platforms that increase your fees as your donor base grows, Click and Pledge pricing stays the same whether you have 10 donors or 10,000 donors. So you can use the QR code and link in the description to check out Click and Pledge, book a demo, and get your first $25 monthly fee waived. Now, this third strategy is personal to me, and it might also be the most important strategy in the entire video. In 2025, Forbes published a headline that called out an invisible crisis shaking the nonprofit sector. Nonprofits are losing leaders faster than they can replace them. Burnout is the number one threat to your mission. The constant stress of facing down huge social problems, lack of support systems and opportunities for growth, and sometimes unlivable wages are among the causes. So as nonprofit leaders, we have to do what we can to keep our teams healthy. Here are 3 ways nonprofits with adaptive cultures are tackling retention and burnout. First, they're building a learning and growth mindset culture. One of the biggest reasons people stay in a job is the opportunity to grow and learn new skills. So what can you do to help your team do that? Your environment should encourage learning, experimentation, and adaptation. That means budgeting for and blocking time for professional development every year. Even if your staff is just you, or even if your staff is currently unpaid volunteers or board members, they're important too. Second, these organizations foster psychological safety. People innovate when they're not afraid of being punished for imperfection. You need to make it okay to make mistakes, to learn and to adapt. Here are a few ways you can do that as a leader. First, model vulnerability. You might say, here's the way I messed up this week and what I learned from it. You can hold structured debriefs after projects where you talk about what worked and what didn't. You should celebrate experiments, not just results. You should create anonymous feedback channels and give people a way to safely share criticism. Third, these organizations empower staff as change agents. If you want an innovative organization that adapts to changing environments, you need innovative people. Try letting team members lead small pilot projects, rotating decision-making authority, and involving staff in strategy, not just in the execution. Train them to spot trends and challenges with a SWOT analysis, for example. But even the strongest teams can drift off course without listening to their community, and that brings us to system number 4. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see nonprofits make is assuming that their community's needs stay the same. That means when things change, they risk becoming irrelevant. So you need to be building consistent, structured feedback loops into your organization's ongoing operations. And here's what that might look like. It could include annual community surveys. It could include regular focus groups or volunteer and participant listening sessions, community advisory councils made up of people that you serve, or post-program feedback cycles and processes. These keep you grounded in the real world and able to adapt to changing needs, not stuck in last year's assumptions. Now, when my friend Maggie was building her nonprofit Pay What You Can restaurant, A Place at the Table, she formed a community advisory board made up of community members experiencing poverty and the people who worked alongside them. And they helped design everything, including the menu for the restaurant. Here's the thing you need to know about Maggie. She hates biscuits and gravy. She did not want to put biscuits and gravy on that menu. But when she did a survey of the people that she served about what they wanted on the menu, the number one requested item was biscuits and gravy. Maggie once told me how that became a defining moment for her. She said, "Who am I to say what the community needs?" To this day, biscuits and gravy are a top-selling item on her nonprofit restaurant's menu. And that is the point of feedback loops. Your community often knows what it needs. So to stay relevant and future-proof, they shouldn't just use your programs, they should help you design them. Here's what you need to do to make that happen. First, build one feedback loop this month. Create a survey, schedule a focus group, or even just invite the people you serve to share their ideas or concerns. Second, learn how to ask the right questions that help you understand the day-to-day lives of those you serve, like what barriers did you face this week? Third, revisit your mission yearly and compare it against current feedback and data. Make feedback a fully integrated part of your work. Here's what a lot of nonprofit leaders miss. Future-proofing isn't about predicting the future. It's about building systems that can adapt to anything. And when I finally understood this myself, everything changed. Things felt easier, our programs grew faster, our fundraising stabilized, and our team became more engaged and more creative. The secret is that the most successful nonprofits in the next decade won't necessarily be the biggest or the loudest or even the most well-funded. They'll be the ones that stay curious, stay agile, and stay connected to the people that they're serving. So here are your 4 systems to future-proof your nonprofit. Technology and operations. Build smart, ethical, efficient systems. Resilient funding models. Experiment and invest in what works and tell your story clearly. Third, adaptive culture and retention. Take care of your people. That's so important. And fourth, community feedback loops. Listen, learn, and adjust. If you build these 4 systems, your nonprofit can survive and thrive in any environment. And if you want more tools, templates, and trainings to help you build a sustainable nonprofit, check out the resources linked below at changemakercafe.com. And next week, I'm going to be sharing some of the top new fundraiser ideas that I'm seeing out there for the next year and how you can give them a try. You won't want to miss that one. I'm Amber Melanie Smith. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.